Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Curtin Biz Buzz. Today, we are honored to have Michelle Phua join us in our interview today, and she'll be sharing her views and experience on the topic online learning and innovation in hybrid teaching. So Michelle is a lecturer at the Faculty of Business here in Curtin, Malaysia. She has a master's in accounting and is also an alumni of Curtin, Malaysia. So starting her career as an academic here in Curtin, Malaysia upon graduating. So we can confidently say that Michelle has many experiences throughout her years here in Curtin as a student and also as a staff. Hello, Michelle. Welcome and thank you for joining us today in our short interview. So your topic is on online learning and innovations in hybrid teaching. So as we know that online learning has become sort of a norm in the education sector due to the pandemic, is actually a great topic for us to dive into. So let's get started on the topic. So I have actually some questions for you. I would like you to share your views on. So the first question is that based on your experience, what are some of the challenges in moving the lessons online? For example, technical infrastructures, equipments, and understanding technology and innovations. Would you share a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you, Katie. I am primarily teaching units as well as subjects that involve calculations, for example, mathematics as well as accounting. So when the lockdown was announced a year ago, my very first challenge was to find a way to reach my students. Reaching my students in the sense that how can I show them my step-by-step calculations, especially for maths and counting, with full explanations like how I would teach in my face-to-face classes. Also, I have a very firm belief that everyone deserves to learn normally even during the period of the country down. So I started to research for ways to teach my calculation units effective. So that's one of my biggest challenge. From there, after research, after talking to my colleagues, etc., I come across several software that is really helpful, several programs as well as equipments that actually help me out, to deliver an effective learning and teaching experience with learning and teaching class with my students. So once I found those programs, it is not as easy to just go to class and start using it. I actually use a bit of time to explore and learn, explore the programs and learn them on my own first before using them in my classroom. So that's my challenge in moving my class online. But of course, I learn a lot as well.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. So I can imagine because from my understanding, right, when it comes to mathematics, right, calculation units, the traditional way or the normal way was to actually for the lecturer or the teachers to demonstrate the calculations on the whiteboard, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so it is a challenge, especially when you have to show the step by step. Okay, so thank you for sharing. So now we'll move on to the next question, which is how do you feel technology can help in engaging students during online classes? And what are some of the technologies or strategies that you have adapted to in your classes? For example, you mentioned that you did some research on, what are the programs or applications that could be used. Could you share about that?
I feel that technology really helped to engage my students during online classes. And honestly, this is a practice that I would like to carry forward to my face-to-face classes in the near future. Using technology as well as face-to-face class together with my students. Technology is a tool for me to present my teaching and teaching contents to my students in a very interesting way. So before I start my class every single time, before I start my class, I will ask interesting, relevant to their daily life question. Okay, what I do is before I start, I actually created a Google form. Okay, for very simple question that needs yes or no answer, or even fill in the blanks answer questions, as well as multiple choice questions. Students, they feel free to go into the Google form and then share their answers with me. And also, I actually tell them, if you want to share your name in the Google form, share it with me. If you want to just do it anonymously because they are shy, I also let them do it as well. Right? That is to check their understanding of the topic before I jump into the topic in the class itself. So in face-to-face classes, yes, sometimes we can students like this, do you understand the previous lecture, etc. But students are quite shy to tell, like me, Sia, I am actually shy. I do not know, I do not want to share with you because I'm afraid that my answers are wrong. But with technology, with Google Forms all around, even if their answers are wrong, I will not mention names as well. I will still discuss their questions, their answers that are wrong, why are they wrong, etc. together with the students in the class. So that's one of the best thing about technology. It helps to engage my students. I have, let's say, in a tutorial of 20 students, I have almost maximum number of students actually join me together in Google Form and discuss together with this as well. So all of them answer my question, all of them engage. So yeah, that's the best thing about technology here.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. So I think let me just summarize it a little bit, right? It is actually very important, I feel, as a fellow academic as well, that students are comfortable with the new setting of the lessons. For example, you engage them through Google Forms where they are allowed to use their free time in their comfortable space from home to engage and participate. So I think that's a very good strategy, right? And which will actually lead us to the next question. You mentioned that in class, right, you could actually ask them face to face, right? Do you understand? Is there any parts that you find it more challenging? Which comes to the topic of virtual presence. Okay, because in class, face to face, we meet them, they're just beside us. We can immediately, we can see their expression, their body language, especially when they are struggling with, trying to get the correct numbers. So for online classes, right, when we talk about virtual presence, how do you build up the presence in your online class and how important it is in an online class?
Okay, that is a very good question. The virtual nature of our classroom in online, our virtual nature actually might leave some students feeling disconnected from their friends, from their lecturers, because they are in their house or even in their room alone. They do not feel that there is actually a community around them, although it's actually an online community. So for me, I understand and I believe that virtual presence is very important as it affects the motivation of our students in an online learning. Knowing that there are friends who are actually doing online classes together with them will actually motivate them to want to study more, want to learn. So like you said just now, in normal face-to-face classes, students have the opportunity to interact with their friends, interact with their lecturers, etc. However, in online class, the challenge is how to ensure that, they do not feel that disconnected from their friends. So in the very beginning of the semester, this is what I do. For those of them with webcam, I actually encourage them to on their webcam. Okay, so that they can see each other's face. Although you are at home, there are actually a lot of people together with you going on the same class together with me at the same time. Yeah? And then I'll have some ice-breaking activities together with them, introduce their names, how are they coping with the recent pandemic, how are they, etc., and where do they come from, things like that. So in that sense, then they get to know each other because we do have group assignments, group projects as well. It's where they actually get to be friends with these people, get to be friends with all their other course mates. And that is for the beginning of the semester. Now, as the semester progresses through the 14 weeks, I always give my students chances to collaborate with each other in small teams. Now, BACS or Blackboard Collaborate, we do have this function where we can actually group students into smaller teams, like for example, 3 to 4 students in one small room, where they can actually discuss on questions that I give them, So what I do is I will just be the moderator. I'll jump in and out of the small group to just oversee their discussion. Or if they are stuck, then I'll be there to help them out. So in that sense, they actually get to know their friends well. If they want to on their webcam, then they get to know their friends' faces also. So that is how I build up the virtual presence in my classroom all this while.
Okay, right. So yeah, I think that is how we try to allow them to engage. And I personally feel that the breakout rooms, especially because when we are using WebEx, we have the breakout room option. I think it's actually a great tool to allow students to discuss among themselves. So we can say that because of the advances in technology, right, it has really allowed us to not only engage with the students, but for the students to engage with one another. I personally love the breakout sessions, and also the fact that we could be moderators. We could always jump in and out to just oversee their discussions and help if they're stuck. So now that you have experience both in online and face-to-face teaching, okay, so is there any preference as to which one you like? And how effective do you think it is? Or if I ask you to do a comparison of both, what is your opinion on this?
I would say that there are advantages to both modes of teaching. Advantages to face-to-face teaching as well as online teaching. In terms of preference, yeah, both of them is actually good. Anyways, for me, face-to-face teaching is really good in the sense that lecturers can interact with students and students can interact with one another. And we are actually trying to build them up and also, groom them up to be a working adult in the future. So for face-to-face classes, students can actually build networks already. Those friends of them will be their will be their networks in the future, which is really important in terms of their growth in university. So that's, advantage of the face-to-face learning. As for online teaching and online learning, there's also advantages as well. Today's age, technology is very accessible everywhere. Almost everywhere you go, there is Wi-Fi. Yeah, and then if you want to join a class, as long as you have a laptop or even a tablet, you can basically just go for your class anyway. So in this sense, students can learn anywhere in the world online as long as, because online classes actually provide them flexibility. So for me, I believe that in the education sector currently, we have to find a balance between face-to-face classes as well as online teaching. Hence, I said, a blended teaching and learning is good. Yeah, because it will provide the best of both world experiences for students learning.
Okay, yes, great. Okay, so we have actually come to the end of our short interview. So before we end the session, do you have any, parting words to say to our viewers? Any comments, and for example, what do you think is the future in, the education sector? Are we going to continue with online learning, or is online learning going to become the new normal?
I would say that this is my personal opinion. I would say that the future is already here. Before the lockdown, all of us have traditional classroom where we go to class, or we have flipped model teaching where students actually are in the class. They're prepared before coming to class. They read up their lecture notes, etc. But right now, in the pandemic situation here, I would say that the future is already here. Online teaching and learning is here to stay. We embrace this, but it's not fully online teaching and learning. I would say that it would be a blended learning and teaching model, like I said previously. Yeah, where students can have the advantages of both online as well as face-to-face. So I would say blended learning and teaching model is here to stay, where students have the flexibility of online learning as well as building up their networks through face-to-face classes.
Okay, that's great. So, Michelle, thank you very much for sharing your views with us today. It is our pleasure to have you here. We have come to the end of our program. So, thank you very much for listening. Bye bye.